Θα σας εξηγήσει ο...
Ναι, θα περιμένουμε τον...
Καλημέρα σας.
Καλημέρα, το Τσαπτοτέο που βρέθηκε να μιλούν όλοι. Ξέρει. Όλοι ξέρει. Κανένας δεν ξέρει, θα μιλήσω ιταλικά, ξέρω εγώ. Εμείς μιλάμε και ελληνικά και αγγλικά και ιταλικά. Δεν έχεις καλά, και Γιάννη.
So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to introduce the owner of this particular place, Morfusa, who is the 8th generation from the initial owner. Wow. Here, the tradition is that the girl inherits the house, not the boy.
We know that.
So, because we are in a typical house of Patmos, actually a house which is one of the oldest in the settlement of Hora, I would like to tell you about the characteristics of the architecture, characteristics which are under the protection of the UNESCO. Characteristic number one. You have to know that houses here are built with stone. This stone is local. It comes from this island, and the natural color of the stone is this. Grey, because one of the main components of this stone is volcanic ash. Patmos is a volcanic island.
Yes.
Behind the stone, you are not going to find brick, because here in this protected area, locals do not just face the walls with stone, they build the whole wall with stone. Of course, you can find brick in other settlements of Patmos and not in this protected settlement. Characteristic number two, you have seen it already, the white color of the houses, which is the dominating color. This white is whitewash, limestone plus water. There are two reasons why houses here are whitewashed, or on islands in generally. The one reason is physics, and the other reason is history. According to the laws of the physics, the white color reflects and does not absorb the heat or the light of the sun. So for these houses, this color, the white one, is a fantastic source of a natural air conditioning. It keeps the interior of the house cooler than the exterior. History says that during the Second World War, a prime minister of Greece, whose name was Ioannis Metaxas, forced Greeks to whitewash their houses. The reason? Antiseptic purposes, because of the diseases. Whitewash is a fantastic antiseptic, you know. Characteristic number three. A typical Patmian house consists of two floors. The lowest part of it is always the kitchen, toilets, bedrooms, storerooms, inner yards, very often. The highest part of the house is always the best part of the house. The sitting room and also the living room. Why? Because of the view. If you were owners of Hora, of houses of Hora, and if you had guests and you would like to satisfy them, or to show off even, I believe that you would place them at the highest part of your house to enjoy this magnificent view. If you see houses with more than 2 floors, that means, practically, that the owners are first-class citizens. For example, the owners of the ships, captains, because in the past time they used to bring money on Patmos and new ideas, they supported the economy of the island a lot. That's why the local here community, in order to say to them thank you, they say also, add an extra floor. But please, not more than 3 floors. Another characteristic, I don't know if you can see it here, but you can see it on other houses. For example, outside the window, you can see another window of another house. Look at the shutters opposite. Not in front of the windows, but behind the window, the shutters. So the wood of the shutter is always protected by the salt of the sea and the winds. Another characteristic of the houses, and this is my last statement before you see a little bit of the house, is the flat roofs and not the inclined roofs. It's a combination, the roof is a combination made by pebbles, seaweed and mud, which is waterproof. And this is the reason. Locals want to utilize every drop of rain. Here on Patmos, we don't complain about rainfall. It's good. 600 to 800 millimeters, 31 inches annually. Every house, you have to know, has got an underground cistern a system to collect this rainwater through drain pipes. Some families, we call them the lucky ones, have got wells in their houses, but the water from the wells is not drinkable. Restaurants here serve mainly bottled water. And this is one of the major problems of Patmos. The fact that it has got lack of drinking water. Almost every day, you have to know, big tankers, the water tankers, bring drinking water from the nearby islands, mainly from Rhodes, which is the biggest island of the Balkans. How you can recognize these water tankers? Because when they come, they are full, so heavy, they look like submarines. And when they leave, because they're empty and light, they look like flying dolphins. They also have long pipes next to them. They put the pipes into certain holes of the port, and the water, with high pressure, is piped out everywhere. The strange thing is that if you had a discussion with a local, the local would say to you that the island has got plenty of drinking water below the earth. And he would be correct. But do you know what's the problem? Or even the danger? In case that you bore for water here and you try to drill the earth, probably the seawater comes into the springs, making the water of the springs salty. Now, if you ask me, Nicholas, how much it would cost me to buy one of these houses here, of this protected settlement, protected by the UNESCO? It's a little bit complicated, the whole thing, but I'll give you an answer. 3,000 to 4,000 euro per square meter of the house. Wow. But it's a little bit complicated, I'll tell you why. Let's say at the square we were standing in front, a house was sold. And let's, with the view of the island. And let's say that behind this square we were, a huge house like a palace, without view, was for sale as well. Trust me, the small house in front would be more expensive because of the location. Now about this house, the initial owner, this couple, he was a merchant, he owned ships and shops in Izmir, Smyrna, in Asia Minor. We characterize Asia Minor, the place where modern Turkey is located nowadays. Yes. And he decided to come here and settle. Look at the year of this house. It is mentioned right here. First half of the 17th century, 1625. Below is the house of Morfusa, the owner, but in the older times there were the stables below. You can have a look by going this way, left, come this way, see also the other room, and then we go down to walk to the monastery of John. No pictures are allowed here. Πόσο έχουμε σήμερα, 27, 26, 27.
Venir Patmos. Αυτά έχω φάει εδώ.
Δεν δέχεσαι.
Normally you pay at the entrance, but because the person that didn't have change, he said that you can pay the museum of the monastery, the entrance fee. So first of all, I would like to tell you about taking pictures in this place. It's a little bit complicated. For example, here we are in the main church. No pictures are allowed. Outside, because it is outside, possible, you can take pictures. On the second floor there is a museum. Inside the museum, negative. No pictures are allowed. And if you see the monks of the monastery, I don't know, because you have to ask permission. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to know that the monastery of John does not have a direct link with John. When we visit the cave, we haven't visited the cave yet. I'll tell you there that John of Revelation stepped on this island at the end of the 1st century. To be more specific, 95 years after the birth of Jesus Christ, in 95 AD. That means during the early Christian times in historical terms. 10 centuries after the arrival of John, in the 11th century, this century is a totally different historical period, which is characterized as Middle Byzantine period. A very educated monk came on the island. He came from Asia Minor, the place where modern Turkey is located nowadays. The name of the educated monk, Christopoulos. Christopoulos knew that in the 1st century,
We pay now.
When we enter the museum.
I would like to tell you some practical things. Now we're going to visit the museum of the monastery. Don't forget the entrance ticket, €2 per person. And when the tour of the museum finishes, your free time begins. That means that you have to exit individually the building, walk the same road we came. Of course, don't forget when you come to the fort, you take the right bar, and we meet at the bus station.
Okay.
Because in your free time, it's not possible to be close to you. You are 26 different people. It's better, and probably you need some information. It's better to predict your needs and give the answers for now. For example, toilet facilities, a priority thing. At the end of this corridor and to the right are the toilets of the monastery. The other option for toilets, do you remember the yellow mailbox?
Yes.
At the bus station, opposite the yellow mailbox are the public toilets. The exit is right here. To exit the monastery, it's very easy because you use the same entrance as an exit and the same road we came. And don't forget this detail when you come to the fort. My watch says 10 minutes before 12 o'clock. Don't forget also 10 minutes before 1 o'clock for departure time. Is this clear?
Yes.
Let's visit the museum. From 1988. A very symbolic year because in 1088 the monastery was built. To make your lives easy, I would like to tell you about the different sections of the museum. Books. This is the first section. Books. The printed and the manuscripts. The second section is icons. Look around you and against the walls. The third section is in the middle. Ritual vessels. The fourth section of the museum is against the opposite wall. Clothing of priests. The exit and the little shop of the museum. Both are upstairs. The steps are right there. What I'm going to do here is to introduce to you the most important items of the museum. We call them the highlights, and then your free time begins. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the most important item which is kept in this particular museum is kept behind this particular glass. The reason, behind this glass you can see one of the oldest copies of the Gospel of Mark, the evangelist and the apostle, the disciple of Peter the apostle. This particular copy is dating from the end of the 5th century Anno Domini, beginning of 6 AD. Material of the copy, parchment, skin of the stomach of young animals, after a complex process of course, Greek the language, capital the letters, and you know, because this is a very expensive material, if you come close to it, you will be able to see that there is no space among the words for economizing space. Also, you can see that behind this glass, there are only 2 pages. Where is the rest of the book? In the Vatican, British Museum in London City, Byzantine Museum in Athens, Moscow in Russia, and in Vienna, Austria. Have a look. Right next door now, right next door. And behind this particular glass, you can see, as I believe, the second most important item of the
Dr.
museum.
DJ Kwan, yung walang...
This large document behind this glass says, the island of Patmos plus the islets Arki, Λειψή, Μαράθη, Αγαθονήσι, Λέβεθα, Πετροκάραβο, Άνυδρος, Χιλιομώδη, which are around Patmos, belong to the monastery of John. So this is the official contract between Christodoulos, the founder of the monastery, and Alexios Komnenos I, the Byzantine emperor of Constantinople. Parchment is the material, Greek is the language, it is dated from the 11th century. To be honest with you, nowadays, June of 2015, things are a little bit different. I mean that the whole island of Patmos does not belong to the monastery anymore. For example, the northern part of Patmos belongs to the Greek government, and some parts to the south of Patmos are private properties, because the monastery at a certain time decided to give this part to these individuals due to financial problems of individuals, sort of a charity, let's say, with very low and symbolic rents. Let's continue. We give priority to the highlights, and then in your free time you can have a look at everything here. My next selective item is behind this glass. It's the oldest portable and mosaic icon of the monastery. It belonged to Christodoulos, the founder of the monastery. Personally, I have another strong motive for the introduction, because the icon depicts a saint of the Orthodox and of the Roman Catholic Church, St. Nicholas. And because my name is Nicholas, I would like to tell you that here in Greece, each one of us, the Greeks, celebrates twice a year. Our initial celebration, which is of not a great importance in Greece at least, is our birthday. Of course, if you come in my house with presents, you are welcome. Our second celebration of a great importance is our name day. That means that we celebrate the saint, the name of whom we have. My name is Nicholas. That means that I'm named after St. Nicholas. So I celebrate that St. Nicholas name day on the 6th of December. Why? Because on the 6th of December it was the martyrdom of St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas happened to be a bishop in Asia Minor in the 4th century Anno Domini. And here in Greece, St. Nicholas happens to be the protector of the fishermen and also the sailors. It's a mosaic icon. Some of these tiny pieces of this mosaic are golden, and some of the tiny pieces here are enameled. Now, why I have the name of Nicholas? Because of the second child of my family, and I'm a man, I have the name of my grandfather from the side of my mother. Because if I were the first child of my family, I would have the name of my grandfather from the side of my father. It's a little bit complicated, but this is it. Let's continue. My last selective item for you, we have to follow the steps to this. Ladies and gentlemen, my last selective item for you is one recommendation by me. Before you visit Patmos, if I would like to recommend something to you, which will remind you to visit here 100%, I believe that an icon that depicts part of the book of Revelation is the proper choice. This particular icon of the 17th century depicts the first vision John received in the cave. The book of Revelation, you have to know, consists of visions. These visions reveal the future of the human race. Part of the vision, we believe that the author received these visions, but also wrote them down in the opening of the earth we're going to visit in a few moments, the cave of Revelation. This is the initial vision of John. As John says in the first chapter of the book of Revelation, one Sunday, as he was praying, he heard suddenly behind him a very loud voice, a voice which sounded to him like trumpets or waterfalls. He turned around to see the voice, and then he saw the resurrected Jesus from Nazareth among 7 golden candlesticks, which represent the 7 early Christian communities, churches of Asia Minor. Church of Ephesus, Smyrna, Sardis, Philadelphia, Laodicea, Patmos, and Thyatira. He was holding 7 stars in his right hand. The stars represent the leaders of these 7 churches, the bishops, the angels, as the biblical text says exactly. The word angel in ancient Greek, angelos, in ancient Greek means messenger. 2 keys in his left hand. The one key represents death, the other key represents Hades. Hades is the kingdom of death, the underworld. And a sharp, double-edged sword was coming out of his mouth. At the bottom of this icon, an icon which was painted in 1626, John, you can see John, collapsed, fell down as though dead, because it was a very strong spiritual experience, the first vision he received in the cave. My watch says that it's 5 minutes after 12 o'clock. I think it's time you were on your own. Look at the exit. I will be waiting for you by the yellow mailbox. Enjoy your free time.
Thank you.
Παρακαλούμε Κύριε.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you read the book of Revelation, in the first chapter, you are going to find out a very interesting detail. The author of the text, by using the personal pronoun I in front of every sentence he uses, he narrates the arrival, his arrival at Patmos, and then he explains why he came on the island. The exact biblical quotation is, I, John, was on the isle that is called Patmos for the word of God and for the testimony of Jesus Christ. The Greek quotation is, εγώ, Ιωάννης, εγενόμην εν την ίσοτη καλουμένη Πάτμο, δια τον λόγο του Θεού και δια την μαρτυρία Ιησού Χριστού. This biblical quotation claims that the son of Zebedee and Salome, John the Apostle, was exiled from Patmos. We know by whom? By the Roman Emperor Domitian. So we know when? At the end of the 1st century, in 95 Anno Domini. And he was exiled on Patmos because of the persecutions against the first Christians by the Roman authorities during the early Christian times. You have to know that John did not come here alone. John was escorted. He was escorted by one disciple whose name was Prochorus and who probably was one of the first 7 deacons of the Church of Jerusalem. The name of the disciple who escorted John, Prochorus, you know, is mentioned in the Bible, in the book of the Acts of the Apostles, in the 6th chapter. I'm mentioning about Prochorus, the disciple of John, for a very certain reason. Prochorus has written one text, the biography of John. The title of this text is Acts of St. John. In this text, we read that the permanent residence of John on this island was not his cave. His permanent residence was the port of the island. Scala, John, according to this biography, was accustomed to preaching, but he was also accustomed to baptizing the islanders he found here at those times. From the harbor area, John used to come here, in this place, in order to pray, and also Prochorus went with him into the cave. That's why, whenever you see icons, illustrations depicting the cave, like this one icon, you see that always inside the cave, two people are depicted. On this icon, this is John, and this is the disciple who escorted him here, Prochorus, the deacon and the apostle Prochorus. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the cave. This part here is not the cave, of course. It did not even exist when John was here. This is a chapel of the 11th century, so a chapel which was built 10 centuries after the arrival of John. It's a chapel which is dedicated to St. Anne. St. Anne is the mother of the Virgin Mary. And now this chapel closes something. This opening. This opening is the entrance of the cave, the natural entrance. The opening, when John was here, you have to imagine, faced straight outside, in the open air. The oral tradition of this island, a very old tradition, and a very powerful one, claims that whenever John felt tired in this place, he used to lie down right here, placing his head in this big recess. So he used this hole as a sort of a pillow, of a cushion. And because he was an old man, because of his high age, whenever John wanted to help himself lift his old body up, he used to put his hand in this hole, using it as a sort of a support. In the first chapter of the book of the Revelation, the author of the text narrates one experience, one spiritual experience. Most of the Christian churches believe that he received this experience he narrates in this opening of the earth. He says, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day, and heard behind me a loud voice, as of a trumpet, saying to me, fear not, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. I was dead, and now I am alive. What thou seest, write it down in a scroll, send it upon the churches which are in Asia, Ephesus, Smyrna, Sardis, Philadelphia, Laodicea, Pergamos, and Thyatira. The biblical text says that when John heard this loud voice, it was a voice that sounded to him like trumpets or waterfalls. The result was that John turned around to see the voice, and when he turned around, he saw the resurrected Jesus of Nazareth among 7 golden candlesticks. He was holding 7 stars in his right hand, 2 keys in his left hand, and a sharp double-edged sword was coming out of his mouth. The presence of Jesus in this opening of the earth, you have to know, made the whole Christian world characterize the cave as the Mount Sinai of Europe, and Patmos, as a result, the Jerusalem of the Aegean Sea. The strong belief also is that the voice of the resurrected Jesus, had such a power, was so powerful, that it caused a crack. Look at the crack. It comes from there, and if you follow the crack with your eyes, all the way here to over here. Right here, where the entrance of the cave is, and from this perspective of the rock, you can see that the fissure, the crack, has split the surface into 1, 2, 3 large parts. This number in the Christian world always implies the very fundamental symbol of all Christian denominations, the Holy Trinity of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The other strong belief is that John did not write all the visions he received in this place on his own. You can see the belief here. John dictated the 7 seals, the 7 trumpets, the 7 vials or bowls to Prochorus, the young disciple who escorted him. The belief is that Prochorus used this flat inclination of the rock as a sort of a bookstone, and Prochorus noted down right here whatever he was being dictated by John. Ladies and gentlemen, the most beloved disciple of Jesus Christ, who rested his head on the chest of Christ during the Last Supper, John of Revelation, you have to know that stayed here on this island only for 18 months, 95, 97, arrival, departure, respectively. After the assassination of Domitian, there was another emperor after him, a Roman one, whose name was Nerva. Nerva was so positive towards the Christians that he gave amnesty. Amnesty means no motive for John to stay. John left the island of Patmos and went back to Ephesus. Ephesus is a city which is opposite us in Asia Minor, where modern Turkey is located nowadays. At this moment of the tour, outside the huge archaeological site of Ephesus, and on a hill which is very close to a Turkish village named Selçuk, the tomb of John still exists. Above the tomb of John nowadays, there are the remains of an old Christian basilica. The cave nowadays has been formed as a church, a Greek Orthodox church. Many visitors, like you, many locals also, prefer to come here, mainly on Sundays, to celebrate the Mass. You can have a closer look. You can touch everything here. What I do not want you to touch with your hands is this part of the rock as you exit, because it's very long and very hard. We follow the same steps. My book says 5 minutes after 1 o'clock. I would like to depart time 1:30. Enjoy your free time. No pictures are allowed in this place, but if you want to take a picture of this place, actually you have to exit this door, and from outside to inside you can take a photograph of the cave. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.